All right, another day, another bummer of an intro. It is Wednesday, New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. You're going to hear me say that again in an awesome conversation with David Andrews, where we cover a lot of football, a little bit of Stefon Diggs, and me skipping over his pal Hunter Henry. Not me necessarily, but the beat for this year's Good Guy Media Award, which is the first thing that we talk about in this episode before we get to Craig Woodson with another 4-minute drill. The reason we are starting with another bummer of an intro, as I'm sitting here actually still live at Gillette before Drake May is going to speak, is because news broke today that Christian Barmore is facing a misdemeanor assault charge. And what we have now is something that we did not have when I recorded with David, which first of all is that news, a police report, and reaction from Mike Vrabel, as well as people within the locker room. So instead of pretending like that didn't happen, or publishing this episode in a way that it's almost automatically outdated, I'm going to give you details of that police report, tell you what Mike Vrabel said today, and a sampling of what guys said in the locker room. Now, this will be shorter than the intro I had yesterday when the Stefon Diggs news broke. And I said, look, none of us have to jump to a take. We can sit here and let it play out as we should. There's more information to be gathered, okay? And we just move forward in that kind of way. It's disappointing news to me personally. And here's why before we get to Mike Vrabel's comments, which actually said he's not disappointed. He'll explain why. Here's the deal with Barmore. So it is a misdemeanor charge of assault and battery on a family or household member. This pertains to an incident on August 8th. And the victim is his on-again, off-again girlfriend who claims that Barmore grabbed her and threw her to the ground during a domestic incident, again, on August 8th. He is scheduled to be arraigned on February 3rd. According to the police report, this on-again, off-again girlfriend is the mother of his 2-year-old daughter, and the two were living together at this time in an apartment in Mansfield. First, allegedly, Barmore became incensed about the air conditioning being 70 degrees instead of 68, so he was upset. Then when his daughter wanted to visit him in his bedroom, picked her up, put her down, shut the door. Later that same day, he got angry at the victim for eating, quote, his food. And so at this point, as she picked up her phone to call her mom, Barmore allegedly took the phone, at which point she tried to pack her belongings and leave. And right then and there, the victim says to the police, according to court documents, when the victim intended to open the door and scream for help, Christian grabbed her before she could get to the door and threw her to the floor. Then the victim alleges that Barmore grabbed her by the shirt around the neck as she tried to stand up. And as she gathered her things, Barmore charged at her but did not make contact because their daughter then leapt into her arms. At that point, she contacted a car service that the Patriots offer players and some immediate family, apparently, that drove her to Delaware, where she applied for a restraining order as she told police. She did not get it. The victim said she was fearful of Barmore and his, quote, handlers, because of threats he's made to other people, allegedly, about committing violence against them, or he has money to hire people to do it for him. So this now leads to questions about, again, as we have with Stefon Diggs, a delay in a complaint, which was officially filed in an email to authorities on September 9th, the day after the Patriots season opener, when she said she had decided to press charges, again, after conversations with the authorities. Now, the complaint was officially filed on December 16th, according to Attleboro District Court. Today, 2 weeks later, the Patriots released the following statement. The Patriots are aware of reports regarding a pending February arraignment involving Christian Barmore, which stems from an alleged domestic incident that occurred in August. The Patriots were made aware at the time of the incident, meaning they knew in August, and informed the NFL in a timely manner. The matter remains part of an ongoing legal process. We will respect the process, continue to monitor the situation closely, as we have over the past few months, and cooperate fully with the league. We will have no further comment at that time. So from that statement, two things. Number one, there's no mention of we support Christian. Now, part of that might be self-evident and that he's still been on the team, practicing and playing. The other one is there's no mention of him categorically denying these allegations. This is a smaller case in that there's one fewer charge, a much less serious charge than the felony strangulation charge that Stefon Diggs faces, but notable nonetheless. So after all of that, and also apparently this is a key detail, which I do not want to skip over after missing a couple of things yesterday when we were talking about Diggs. The victim provided a photo of the bruises she allegedly suffered during the alleged incident to police, who attached the photo to the report. There you go. So what did Mike Vrabel say? He held a press conference today. He answered questions in a way that I was encouraged by, which is to say that he did not just refer to the statement and deflect. There wasn't a ton of expansive insights into the Patriots process and thinking, aside from letting the process play out. Here was his first answer, though, when asked how disappointed he was and that players are not making good decisions, which is the fourth pillar of his program, as outlined on signs in the main team reading room. Quote, I would say not disappointing at all. I think that these are allegations, like you mentioned in your question. It's things that we have to handle, and every day there are distractions. Some are smaller than others. I'm confident that we'll continue to focus on the Dolphins, and those two individuals that you mentioned will be able to handle the ongoing legal process. So Diggs' arraignment is set for January 23rd. You'll hear from David Andrews talk about, hey, well, how would he feel privately? And what would he do publicly as we talk to certain teammates in the locker room, as I did today? And this is what Garrett Bradbury told me. Quote, it looks like more of a distraction from probably the outside, but we're focused on us. It's a bunch of professionals in the locker room. Carlton Davis gave me a no comment. Totally his prerogative. But for the most part, they're aligned in their messaging. They're calling this a distraction. Vrabel emphasized multiple times, these are just allegations. So there's a little bit of defiance in there, but we will leave it there. Again, Diggs is scheduled to be arraigned on January 23rd, Barmore February 3rd. They're represented by the same attorney, who, of course, expressed confidence that this will be resolved. He, David Meir, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the last name, said he's confident that the evidence will demonstrate no criminal conduct took place and called this a personal matter for Barmore. So that's where we're at. Another day, another charge, another bummer intro. But here comes David Andrews, a ton of good football insight, some ball busting right off the top. And as I mentioned before, the first part, if it wasn't totally clear, is about the Media Good Guy Award we handed him 2 years ago after a vote by all the beat writers that this year went to Garrett Bradbury, his successor, and he might have wanted to go instead to Hunter Henry. So without further ado, David Andrews, Happy New Year once again, everybody. Oh, and one more thing. I forgot to give you the statement from the NFL, which I think is going to be pretty telling about the statuses for Christian Barmore and Stefon Diggs, which Mike Vrabel said today. He has not heard anything to indicate that they will not be available for Sunday's game against the Dolphins. And based on what the league has said regarding their statuses and whether or not they would go in the commissioner's exempt list, which, by the way, they can do anything they want. The NFL wrote the rules. They were collectively bargained. This is all ironclad. But because you'll hear me and David discuss potentially their placement there and what you would do and what it would mean if Diggs can't play, it seems like that's off the table. And here's what the statement was from the league less than an hour ago. Quote, there is no change to the statuses of Diggs or Barmore. Both are eligible to play at this time. Pursuant to the personal conduct policy, consideration for placement on the commissioner's exempt list may be considered following formal charges in the form of an indictment by a grand jury, didn't happen here, the filing of charges by a prosecutor, not yet, or an arraignment in criminal court. So again, Barmore will be arraigned early February, Diggs late January. The NFL, as it stands now, pending any more information they might gather, though this Barmore incident was half a year ago, seems to stand pat, will allow them to continue to play and see if indeed formal charges are brought by the prosecutor as opposed to these criminal complaints, which require, enough evidence to get to probable cause. The point is, Barmore and Diggs seem ready to play Sunday. Barmore was away, according to the team, due to an illness. Read into that however you like. But again, Mike Vrabel said he's not heard anything that would indicate they won't be available to play. And the league just told you they're eligible. So if it's up to the league and the league says they're eligible, that's kind of that. Okay, one more time. Happy New Year. Here's David Andrews. All right, a Happy New Year to you and yours. It is Wednesday, New Year's Eve, about 10:30 in the morning. David Andrews has had his coffee, and now he is hanging out again at the Pats Interference Podcast, part of the Laudable, Learned, Lively CLNS Media Network. Dave, I teased the last episode that someone might have a bone to pick with me, lighthearted, but we're going to start right there because your pal was passed over for a big award that I was kind of in charge of a week ago.
Well, yeah, that was my bonus. Your award, right? Like you're the ringleader on this, aren't you? On the where's mine? There it is.
What is that award for the people listening?
That is, what's it called? It's the Good Guy Award from the media. What's the guy's name though?
Ron Hobson Media Good Guy Award.
Ron Hobson Good Guy Award. And I had to wait in a long line. There was, it's kind of like, the Patriots Hall of Fame now, all these teams and all these great players, there's going to be a long line of people, that got to go in, for guys like even like a Logan Mankins, he left. It's been done a long time. Like you got all these new guys, Gronk's coming up, all these other guys, Cordy, Slate, like it's yeah. So that was my thing with that. I understood the pecking order here, but now you got a guy, Hunter Henry, who's been there what 4 years, 5.
This is year 5.
Year 5. Great dude, good person. And we give it to a guy that got there 8 months ago. Which I've loved Garrett in the media. They think he's done a great job. Whether it's my own personal media bias where I think, hey, you got to answer to these questions. And then I hear him talk and I'm like, that's a good answer. Like that's how you need to answer those questions. So, just think if there's a pecking order, which there's always seemed like there's been, I feel like the pecking order was put out of place this year, Andrew.
So you feel like Hunter Henry got skipped when we gave Garrett Bradbury the Media Good Guy Award last week?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
And I will give, no offense to Garrett, but it's real easy to answer questions when you're good. And Hunter was good.
What happened the year you won it?
We stunk. And you guys were, assholes.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. Yeah, you were Andy Dufresne at the end of Shawshank Redemption, kind of fighting your way, squirming through all of the shit in the tunnel and the pipes to get out to that Media Good Guy Award when you stood up and it showered off, and then you just got to go into the offseason with another bad season ahead of you and some injuries. But now you're on the good side. You're on the media side.
Is that the good side, Andrew?
I mean, you are hanging out in the middle of the day Wednesday when otherwise you would be lifting or in some kind of meeting. Or
that is true.
I
can't complain. Look, I think that's the funny. Everyone's like, "Oh, don't you miss it?" And like, yeah, obviously it's. And I think for some people, like it is just a job, but like there's certain people that like it was who they were, and I think football is a part of me, and it always will be. But at the same time, you're ignorant to think it's not going to end, and like you're ignorant to think that, life after football can't be great, just as great as it was. I think that's when you have to figure out your priorities, and what's really, important to you. And I think for me, I got great advice when I was thinking about getting into coaching, by some coaches that I know and really respect. And it was like, why don't you see what life without football is before you get back into football? Because I think everybody knows these coaches work 10 times harder than the players. Now, granted, they're not doing obviously the physical stuff. Maybe Mike could go out there for a few plays, but he'd probably be on the short-term IR after, But, they're not doing the physical stuff, but the workload, the hours they command are different. So, I think that was probably the best advice because there is life outside of football. And sometimes you get into the grind of football. And I'm sure it's the same for y'all a little bit because, you guys are traveling, especially the guys on the beat, the travel, the weekends, like there's no weekends in football. And, at least, you guys maybe had a little bit of an off season, but you still had jobs to do where, my off season was go work out for a few hours. But some days, I guess in senses you can't look around and smell the roses, because you're just such in this mindset. So yeah, it's been great. I feel great. I'm not sore. I'm not hurt. So I'll take that. And it's a lot better sitting here talking to the media when you have no responsibility.
Yes. Yeah. It's on your terms. I was going to say today of all days, you'd rather take questions in this podcast than down at Foxborough. Cause like I said, it's 10:30 on Wednesday meeting. Yeah. We were going to go speak with Mike Vrabel and then Drake May and possibly at some point Stefon Diggs. We have not heard from any of them, which is a good way to preface this because by the time people listen or watch, they'll have heard from all of them about the incident, which I'm going to ask you about here in a second. But for the record, you won that Media Good Guy Award 2023, Bills last year, the hardest, most miserable year that I covered. We gave it to John Jones in 2024. You'll notice a pattern. Every person who gets this award has to retire, gets cut,
or leave,
earned or re-signed. So we might have done Hunter Henry a service by keeping him around as opposed to giving him the Ron Hobson curse of the Media Good Guy. And Garrett Bradbury should probably be working on an extension.
I'm going to throw that thing away now then.
No, you're doing okay. So, yeah, here's the deal. We're going to talk Diggs. We're going to talk Patriots playoff pass, and then obviously Miami on Sunday. The Diggs part, I omitted a couple of details here in recapping the scenario in the police report. We all understand a couple of things. So you and I can just get this out of the way. This is a serious matter.
Yeah.
These are all allegations for now. We are all in wait and see mode, and that's where we should stay until there are more facts. A couple of the facts that were in the police report or allegations part of the story were that, number one, she returned to Diggs' house a week after the incident, asked for payment, was told, hey, you can get paid if you sign this NDA. She alleges she said no. A week later, goes to police. I'd mentioned there was a delay. I was not specific. That's on me. A week after that is when she finally filed charges and told police, by the way, I got text messages from what she said was Diggs' girlfriend about, hey, this isn't a big deal. Don't do anything about it. Those details now established. Number one, let's say you're still on the team. We didn't curse you with the Media Good Guy Award. What is your reaction to what's happened? And then number two, let's say you have to be guy at the podium again. What are you telling us publicly as a representation of the organization to the media?
Well, look, we are all like in our country, we are quick to judgment, right? Good and bad. And that's just human nature, not even our country, just human nature, right? You're quick to judge, good or bad. And, you know, I think as a player, you have interactions with people, right? And sometimes those are small interactions. Like I don't know how many people are hanging out with Stefon Diggs at 7:00 at night on Wednesday night, after the day's over. Um, you know, and so you only see certain things, of people. And I think you kind of maybe will say, oh, like this person's, this or that. And then something does happen, and then you're like, oh, well, now all this stuff makes sense. Like, I don't know, like it just, I think people do that. And look, I think as a player right now, you have no idea what happened, right? You have these facts. The organization has no idea what happened other than the facts. No one was there except for these two people, right? Um, and it was a female, right?
Yep, female chef.
And look, and I'm not defending if he did what he did, they say he did, or she said he did, or the report, or whatever, then it'll get worked out in the court of law, and it'll, what will happen, and that's not good. It's a very bad thing, obviously. But until then, the only thing you can go on is what you know of somebody, and what you believe that person is. And so I guess that, and then in the second part, like it doesn't involve me, as a player.
Yep.
It doesn't involve me. I'd probably defer to a couple things. If the head coach goes first, talk to Bill or talk to Mike, and a lot of times, like, you'll understand what Bill had said about XYZ, right? Like, hey, Bill, like Tom's hand when he slid his hand open. Like, I kind of knew how Bill had already addressed it, so I could kind of follow his lead. And I think that's the best course of action as a player, right?
Yep.
Because who's in charge? The head coach.
Yeah, and that's an AFC Championship game where you were literally the one who's going to be sapping that ball into his.
Yeah, I knew exactly what was going on with Tom.
Yeah.
And, but like I have a duty to the head coach, to the organization, to the owners to uphold the standard, whatever they've set for me. And so I think that's step one I do as a player. And then step two is, look, I was not there. It does not involve me. Talk to the head coach, talk to Stefon Diggs. Because I think in the media, the biggest thing for a player to do is speak for themselves. You speak for yourself. And I know that's the classic Bill Belichick. And my wife used to get on to me all the time. Like, you just sound just like Bill. And I'm like, yeah, because I have a job to do, and like, that's my boss. And I'm not going to jeopardize anything in my career for something. Like, what am I going to gain telling something to the media? You know what I mean? In a real aspect thing. Like, it's not like you guys are going to start paying me, an NFL contract for information here, like, so.
Well, it's something you can't speak to. Like you said, you weren't there.
Yeah, you weren't there. But
anything
maybe that, like Tom's hand, I obviously was involved in. But like,
yeah.
Like you guys aren't going to start paying me a daily wage to give you information, if you guys do, I need to get into.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe some national insiders, but
yeah, maybe Mike Reese, I don't know. But that's kind of my thing. And I think right now, like I said, if he did it and it goes through the legal process, like there's obvious repercussions. It's obviously wrong, but you are innocent until proven guilty.
Mhm.
And I think we don't know. We know what we know, you know, and until that is settled, it just you go about your business, and then you got to let the chips fall where they are, whether it goes away, if it, you know, is proven not true, or if it is, then you have, obviously there's, kind of courses of actions to go about.
All right, let's move on to the playoffs. It's been weird to me, as much as we just did the takeys on the morning show, worst takes, that everyone now on the Patriots beat seems to agree. A, Drake should win MVP, which we're not talking about, but that's out there. The Chargers are their easiest opponent, and they should kind of take it easy on Sunday. So let's start with Sunday versus Miami, where they're playing at 425. So is Denver. Denver wins, beats the backup Chargers. The Broncos get the number 1 seed, and that's it. I have said, start everybody, watch the scoreboard. If Denver gets up 27-0, there's nothing to play for in terms of this is more important than our health, because I think their health is paramount to them winning those 3 games in a row, which would be the reality. If Denver wins, there's nothing they can do about it. What say you? How do you approach Sunday if you're Mike Vrabel?
I approach it to go out there and kick their ass.
Right.
And foot on the gas, no hold. Look, like if you're a competitor and you're trying to, which I think Mike has built a culture, but you're still trying to cultivate that culture. You always have to build it and grow that culture. Your message is we're going out there to kick their ass. Now, if you get up big, like you do what you did against the Jets, and I can say this, I know on our playoff runs, I'm not sure where the standings were toward the end of those years, but like I played in every last, 16th game at that time. I played in every one of them. Now, granted, a lot of times you do end with like the Jets or Dolphins, and I felt like a lot of times it was the Jets, and we got up big on them, and sure, in the middle of the fourth quarter, I was coming out, but in this state, this team, I would want these guys to go out there and do exactly what they did last Sunday. Don't worry about scoreboard watching, because in my mind, what made Sunday so special in my mind is they have a standard that they're playing to. They're not playing to the Jets standard. They're not playing to they could have gone out there and sucked it off and won 20-10. They could have rolled the ball out there and won 20-10. Or even 27-10, and Drake comes out with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there's a killer instinct there. Yeah.
Like, to me, you when you're a good football team, you have a standard for not only your football team, but you as a personal standard, right? Like, I want to be my best, no matter what, every Sunday at 1:00. And that's what I saw watching that game this past Sunday, right? And whether it was Diggs making big plays, Drake, obviously, like, them running the football like they did, trying to finish people. There was a play in the second quarter. There's 2 minutes to go. They threw it like an out route or a hitch route to Mechie on their sidelines. Gonzo comes up and pops him. Like, he could have just touched him out of bounds. Like, no, like, we're playing football. So that's what I want to see for them on Sunday, because, again, I think this is a growing culture, and they've done an amazing job. Mike's done an amazing job. The coaches, the players buying in. But I think this team, and I think there's guys I want to see play. Like, I want to see Will Campbell play.
Yes.
He's a rookie. Jared Wilson, I'd like to see Jared Wilson play. Like, these are guys that their football data bank is smaller, in the NFL. Like, you might have played a lot of football before, but this is a different beast, and they can't be in pads right now. These guys are rookies. They need to feel. Now, I'm not saying they need to play for 4 quarters, but they need to feel another grown man put their hands on them. And Miami has some good players on that side of the ball. Zyler, Chubb, Dodson at middle line. Like, they need to feel some of that stuff and that game action that you can't simulate in practice. So, and look, your quarterback's hot. Like, I want him to stay hot. And sure, you can say, oh, he could go out there and get hurt. Well, he could go out there and get hurt the first play of the divisional round, you know, and that's just football. The injuries are inevitable playing this game. Like they're just you're not going to not have them. So, uh, as a competitor, I think I want to see him play, and I want to see him go out there and dominate on Sunday, like I believe they can. And I never think it's good losing. It's never good to lose. So you go out there and you suck it off, and guys don't play, and you lose. That's not a it's not a good feeling going into the playoffs in my mind.
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Is the phrase "if you go out there and suck it off" something you said often in the locker room? Because that has made me pause twice now, as you
I
said
know
it.
it
I
has.
understand what you mean, but I feel like you would have gotten your balls.
I think Bill used to say that a lot.
Really?
Yeah,
That was Bill's phrase.
Suck it off.
Go out there and suck it off. All right, very good. Look,
You can't say anything now. I used to say that all the time in the locker room because guys would be like, "Yo, you got to say pause after that." I'd be like, "So I could just say whatever I want and say pause?" Like I don't know.
This isn't the PC police. This is just a giggling 13-year-old being like, he said it again, and now I have to let that 13-year-old out because otherwise he's just going to be cackling.
It is a funny saying, but Bill used to say it all the time. And when you're around someone as much as I was around Bill, and you're getting talked to in football language, then it just kind of comes out sometimes.
Did Mackenzie ever hear that? Did she have another reaction? Like, oh, you sound just like Bill?
No, it is hard, though, when you live in a locker room for a long time and you talk certain ways and then you know, especially once you start having kids, you're like, oh man, I gotta clean it up.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think there's a happy medium, a best case scenario here, right? Where you get what you're describing. And I agree in the point of like, Will Campbell's got to play, Jared Wilson's got to play, Milt Williams has got some rust to knock off. They get up 30-0 in the third, 42-3, whatever it is again. You let those guys sit because the game's in hand. The issue for me is I think the thing you need most to win those games is your health. So it's not
I agree. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a fine balance. So hopefully, again, if they're up big, you're going to sit them anyway. This, in my case scenario, was like you're up 13-17, late third quarter. Denver's put the game away. What do you do? And whatever they decide, they'll choose. But it's interesting to hear because I think your point about culture is one that people in my position overlook, right? Because I'm in the building a lot. I'm not in there every day, and culture is what you allow and what you reinforce in meetings, at practice, in the focus and the things that you're doing. So part of that is just saying the standard you're talking about. If you're Mike Vrabel, I don't give a shit that the Broncos kind of control our fate a little bit. We control what we have, and what we're going to do is go kick some ass.
That's how I get the vibe from Mike. Like what kind of message is it he's sending when? Because you always talk about be where your feet are, right? And I don't know if Mike's talking about that. That's a very common thing, right? Be where your feet are that day, and especially in football because there's a lot of life going on outside of football. But when you walk in that building, it's okay not to be okay. But when you walk in, you gotta put whatever you're dealing with behind you. And it even goes back to the Diggs thing, right? Like you got to put whatever you're dealing with, whatever's going on outside for that 8 hours or however long you're there that day, you got to be there. Right. And then when you leave that, especially when you're talking about football and family and all this other stuff, when you leave that building, like now football's over. It's time to go be a dad or a husband or whatever it may be. And, to me, if Mike, the way I think of Mike, what message is it sending if he's sitting there and is like looking at the scoreboard or getting information? Now he might, but I think his message is more about competing and winning and the standard versus, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to be healthy. And I think also as a coach, there's a fine line of that, like you got to protect your football team and make sure they're ready to go. And look, whatever Mike decides, I think as he's shown, right, through his, the team this year, like you trust it.
Yeah. Oh, he's earned that 10 times
exactly.
over. And this is also something, him as an ex-player, which I think rightfully gets brought up less and less the longer he's the coach here. This is drawing on the players in the locker room, what they think matters more than what he did 20 years ago. But he would understand what the feeling would be if he's told or was told back then, which Bill never did, we're going to sit you. This doesn't matter. Like the impact of that. It's not
Yeah.
something I imagine you have to project. He knows what that feeling is as you do too.
I think what makes Mike a great coach, and I don't think just because you're a great player means you're going to be a great coach. There's a big difference, and because there's a lot of great coaches that never played. Dante Scarnecchia never played in the NFL, has no idea what it's like really playing in the NFL. But that doesn't mean he's not a great coach, and it doesn't mean he didn't know how to connect with his players and different things. Now he did it in an interesting way, but you know, but Mike has all those experiences, good, bad, and ugly, and great, and he can draw on those experiences. And I think that makes him as a head coach very unique. And whether it's interactions with other and he also played for different organizations. He played for it was Cowher in Bill Cowher in Pittsburgh, right?
Yep, and then Todd Haley in Kansas City. Yeah,
who's a great coach, and then Bill, obviously, and then he's worked for Meyer. He's worked for Billy O, was his own coach in Tennessee. Last year got to see this different side. And I think last year, the role he was in allowed him to connect with players in ways he probably never did as he's a head coach. Because everyone knows the head coach is going to fire you one day, right? Like that. He's either going to fire you or trade you. That's the only option. So, there's this weird dynamic there in some aspects. So I think he's understood that and got to see a new side of players last year that maybe he hasn't when he's an actual football coach, So I think his playing experience makes Mike who he is, in a lot of ways.
Real quick, because I'm sure you and Brian are going to break this down on a quick snap pod. But the Patriots are going to see the Bills, Chargers, or Texans. And we're going to get to Miami here in a second. The team you would most want to see if you're the Patriots, and the team you would least want to see in the wild card round. You got to pick.
Yeah, I know. Again, this is like where I'm struggling in the media because I still have this like player thought, and like I would have never thought like, oh, it doesn't matter, like who we play, like, but I guess I would want to see first. I'd want to see the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
One, I want to see the matchup of May and Herbert. I think to me, look, I would say this right now about the AFC. Who's the favorite to go right now? Is it the Patriots? Weren't they the favorite at one? Like,
I think it'll be Denver because they just have the bye. They
the home
just
field
need to win
bye.
2 games. Yeah, plus home field. Yeah.
I guess you look at there's just a lot of unknown in the AFC right now. Like I think if you look at the AFC, call it when I was in the league, it was like, all right, if Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger are there, you would probably say it's going to be Tom, then it's going to be Peyton, and then it's going to be Ben. But if Ben won, you weren't going to be that surprised. The Steelers won like that. Ben won 2 Super Bowls. Like he's got a pedigree. But was it 2 or 1? Did he win? He won 2,
He won
right?
2. He won 1 his second year, and then they did again
later.
Yeah.
So like you wouldn't have been that surprised. You look at this, like there's not a team in the AFC with the current roster that's been to a Super Bowl.
Bills or Texans then? Who would you least like to see?
The Bills, just because
Josh.
One, you played them twice and they have a X factor at quarterback.
Yeah.
Like and I don't think he's not unbeatable. You saw what happened this weekend. You saw what you did to him week 1. Or not week 1, but the first matchup.
Yep.
And then you can see what can happen when you go out there and I don't know about y'all or how you felt as the media, but in the middle of the second quarter, I was popping champagne versus that second Bills game. I was looking up my hotel in San Francisco, and
Zoe declared that Buffalo's Super Bowl window was shut. And that was on the radio, and I think that's when the whole game turned. So that's at least part of the media and what they were thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, good job, Zoe, you asshole. No, but I look at this Patriots team, and I just don't think they don't have to play great to beat anybody. They don't have to play perfect to beat anybody. They have to play good, and that Buffalo game, and I just go back to that one because it was their last loss. That Buffalo game, they played, 1.5 quarters, almost 2 quarters of really good football, right? Buffalo started to get some momentum in the second quarter.
Yeah.
But, they played really a great first half of football and then one of their worst second halves of football. And so when you do that, that's what happens. And since you play great and not good, then it's still a close game, but you lose. Versus, you play 2 really good quarters, you probably win that game. Or 2 really good halves, you win that game. So to me, it's just, I don't look at the AFC and be like, oh, this is the wagon this year. Or it's like, oh, we got to go through Mahomes. I think if I'm the Bills and you don't go to the Super Bowl this year, that's bad. It's bad.
Disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah, because
yeah,
it's like, it would be like if, let's go back to Peyton and Tom. If Tom got knocked out of the playoffs and Peyton and the Colts don't go to the Super Bowl, you're like, well, how? Like that to me is kind of this situation in Buffalo, because it seems like you've had a chance every year and you run into the buzzsaw of Kansas City. And then now they're nowhere to be found. Baltimore's not there. These other great competition franchises, you would say, of the AFC, you've got Patriots haven't been in the playoffs in 4 years. The Broncos now are, but they haven't been real contenders since, 2015. The Chargers, the Texans, sure, the Texans have been in the playoffs, but they haven't really they've won the wild card, and this usually they lose in the divisional round. The Jaguars, were the Jaguars last time in the playoffs in 2017?
Yes.
So, you've got a lot of new blood there. And you're the one now that in Buffalo is like, well, we are technically the pedigree, right? Like we've done this. We've been to the AFC Championship, X amount of times the last few years. So I don't know. I feel like if you're Buffalo, you feel all the pressure in my mind. You know,
for sure.
I mean, look, if the Patriots go to the divisional round and lose a tight game versus, I don't know, the Broncos or not the Broncos because they wouldn't play them, but the Texans, they lose, 24-23. Are you going to feel like this year is that big of a disappointment?
No, not at all. I would
not at all.
They'll lose in the wild card round.
If you're Buffalo and lose in the divisional round, what do you think? This
year
year was a failure.
Yeah. And next year is going to get harder because Mahomes will be back, and Lamar Jackson and Burrow and all those guys. One team that feels no pressure because they've been out for a while is Miami. You ready to talk about the Dolphins?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Well, first, I got to remind the good folks that if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening because it's partly sponsored by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, still the easiest, simplest way to win money while you watch sports. I like doing that. I do it sometimes at midnight with baby in one arm, phone in my other, and it could be basketball. I don't dabble much with the hockey, but a lot of football coming. We give you picks every week. We're in a 3-week heater. This week, though, they don't have the Patriots numbers up, so we got to go outside of this game on Sunday. PrizePicks, 2 players to 6 players, pick a stat. You go more than, less than, passing yards, touchdowns, receiving yards, whatever, or just take our advice here. Saturday night, Christian McCaffrey, more than half a touchdown. Lock it in. They're playing Seattle. Big game. Best players play their best in big games. Christian McCaffrey's pretty good. Quinn Ewers. This is the only player in stat up for Sunday for the Patriots. Or Dolphins. I got him more than 188.5 yards passing because either the Patriots get out to a big lead and he has to play catch up and it's garbage time and they don't care, or Miami surprises, and I think it'll be because the Patriots throw a lot of numbers at the run to slow that down, and he gets to eat a little bit, maybe a broken play. Jalen Waddle goes long. 188 is not that much. I think he goes over. So there you go, your PrizePicks picks of the week. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 off in lineups. $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, Miami. For those not paying attention, which I would understand why, Dolphins probably doing better than you think. 7-9, 21st by DVOA, 24th in offense, 23rd on defense. They were 8th in special teams. Big win last weekend, 2017 at home over the Bucs. The week before that, 45-21 loss to Bengals, not great. 28-15 loss at Pittsburgh, and then they beat the Jets by 24 going back almost 4 weeks ago. Their quarterback now is not Tua, and hasn't been now for a couple of weeks. Quinn Ewers, who on the season is 39 of 60 for 485, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 4 sacks. I just said I think he'll get 188. So far, his average is a touch above that. We'll see. But let's start with the other quarterback, Drake May. You mentioned he's hot. I think he's going to win MVP. Are there any trouble spots here for him, or where do you see like the key battlegrounds, Patriots offense versus Dolphins defense?
Look, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I've done a full breakdown on Miami. I do know this, Zyler's a really good player, their defense tackle. They've got Bradley Chubb, who I think leads with 8.5 sacks for this team. So, look, those two guys are problems. I know Zyler likes to be on the left side some, so that's either Jared Wilson or Ben Brown, which is a good, look, I think you want your guys to see good competition, that's how you get better. That's how you learn. And he's a crafty vet. Chubb's on the left a lot too, right? I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's obviously Low or Will, depending on how that goes. That's a good matchup for Will. Like, he's going to see really good players, whether it's, Mac and LA, Houston with, Hunter and Anderson. So to me, like, I want guys to see good talent and especially at those positions. And, and then Dotson in the middle. He's a really good linebacker. I don't know much about their secondary, and I don't know much about their motivation right now. I think you could see Miami moving on from Mike McDaniel. I don't know how the players feel about Mike. If they do like Mike and they believe in Mike, then I think they have something to play for, because I think if you sneak an 8-9 game, possibly that's a job saver for Mike, and, look, he can try to scapegoat it on the quarterback situation if, different things. But so I think if they like their head coach, care about their head coach, believe in their head coach, that's another factor for them to play for, because obviously they're not playing for the playoffs. There's obvious the personal drive of some players that I think, they want to win, and they're competitors and they're good. The guys you would say are good, not good people's not the right word, but good competitors, I guess, where they want to win. They don't care about the matchup, or you have nothing to play for. And then there's going to be plenty of guys that are thinking about sitting on the beach in Cabo,
Yeah.
That's just the truth.
Well, I'm with you on the defensive line. Like, I think, Miami's pass defense is bottom 6. They're 27th. So, like, if the Patriots are going to exploit part of this defense, it's probably not their run defense as much as we like what we saw from Andre Wright and Trayvon Henderson last Sunday. That comes down to protection, because the quickest way for them to disrupt Drake is going to be winning off the edge against Will if he's rusty, or Vidarian, and that's where they've got most of their talent. I don't see many other like matchup problems, and part of this is health dependent and Diggs being available, right? Because Miami doesn't play a ton of man. This is much more of a Baltimore type of defense, and even they don't have the horses to play man. So that's the only thing that I see there. I mean, running the ball, like I've harped on, they're not as efficient down to down, but they get enough explosives, and that's the way that they can win. Do you agree with that, or where do you see kind of
me and Hoyer have talked about this a lot, and because I've gone around and around on the run game, and been frustrated on it and different things. And Hoyer's like, well, they're doing enough of it and they're doing well enough in it that they still have the effects of the play action and different things. And I know people might get mad at Josh when he calls runs and they don't go well, but you have to do that. And my counter to Hoyer on that is, well, when you have a young quarterback, which this dude has played, I mean, it's
stupid.
I don't have words for it anymore. On our show, we do the dependable player of the week, and Hoyer wants to give it to Drake every time. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying, but like, there's certain things he's done now that I just expect him to do, like that deep ball to Kyle Williams. Like, how many times have we seen him throw great deep balls?
It's a superpower.
Yeah. It's just like, and that's not taking anything away from Jake or making him less special. But I'm like, yeah, you could always give the quarterback a game ball and whatever awards you want to do, because if quarterback plays good, you're probably winning those games. And there's been very few games in my career where the quarterback plays elite and you lose. Now, there's definitely been some, but that's kind of been my thing. Like, look at the Cincinnati game, the first half, where he struggled. It was not his best. That is, to me, where it's important to have a run game, because it's important to you got to have something sometimes to settle them down. And if you're efficient in the run, you can run the ball on first down, right? You go out there, you have your game plan. It's not going where he's not playing well, whatever reason it is. To me, then you can go, all right, let's settle him down, run the ball. All right, 2nd and 6, run the ball again. All right, 3rd and 3, or even if it's 2nd and 5, like, let's throw a quick out, or whatever the route is that you choose, right? There's a big stuff about Haas juke, right? Everyone talks about Haas juke. Let's run Haas juke. It's an easy throw for him, get him in a rhythm. Okay, good. Let's run the ball again. All right, let's run it again. All right, let's take an easy play action where you get people open, and there's just things in the run game that I think that settles quarterbacks down, helps quarterbacks. Whether it's finishing the game, right? You get in these 4-minute drives in a crucial moment, and you can finish the game on the ground versus having to throw it. You throw the ball, there's a lot of variables. You get in the red area, right? The red area condenses the field, and it's harder to throw the ball in the red area. That, to me, where game planning becomes huge is the red area. And you get creative, and I've thought Josh has always done a great job of that. And you see but sometimes it doesn't work. They make adjustments, they make plays, like, they're getting paid too.
Well, and you just have to win those matchups, which is mostly running the ball, right? Like, you take care of your block. Reminder, he's going to have room. When he has room, he's going to score touchdowns. And I think what you're also kind of getting at, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like a release valve for Drake, right? Whether he's struggling or whether he's not, there are just things that you can go to where it's not all on his shoulders in the wider menu that Josh has to go to, whether it is running the ball to, emphasize some earlier callers set something up. It's just less on him, so that your whole hopes are not all in that Drake May basket, which has carried a lot. It's carried the whole team for long stretches of the season.
Yeah.
But you want to be able to put the ball in other places when you can.
And look, I played with the greatest quarterback of all time. We still ran the ball a lot, and that was still a strength of ours. And I think it still helped him out a lot. And sure, there was games where we had to rely more on him. But when you can do that as a team, now it even goes back to my Buffalo thought. Like, to stop the Bills, you got to stop James Cook.
Which is crazy, but it's true. Yeah.
I think it's true. And I think you look at the first game the Patriots played the Bills, James Cook had like 50, 70 yards maybe.
Under 50.
Under 50, yeah. And you look at the second game they played him, he had over 100. So that, to me, it makes it one-dimensional. And look, I think in saying that, like, Josh Allen can still beat you just Josh Allen. Drake May he's shown he can still beat you with just Drake May when they're not running the football well. But it just adds a different dynamic. And that also kind of goes, not saying Quinn Ewers is anything like Drake May, but when you look at the Miami offense, everything runs through that offense through HN. Yeah. Passing game, run game, he is the engine to that offense. And
let's do them right now, because I think the Patriots offensively will roll up 24 easy, probably get to 30. They had 33 in the last matchup. Are we in agreement there, or where do you see them?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I think my thing is, if they attack this week like they did last week, you're going to see the same result, because every team has a breaking point, even good teams. You can feel a team break. Like, I think I felt the Rams break in that 18 Super Bowl when Stefon picked that ball off on the blitz. The first play of scrimmage were backed up. Maybe it wasn't right after, but the first play of scrimmage were backed up. Rex Burkhead goes right up the middle for like 30, 40 yards. Like, they broke. You felt it. And even though they were still in the game, there's just something about it you can feel. And when you play teams that have nothing to play for, that breaking point, that was probably in the fourth quarter. That breaking point for those teams is like the Jets. It was in the middle of the first quarter. Like, they were broke. And it was probably when the Patriots got up 14 points, I assume. Watching it and just knowing what that's like, and I've been on a bad team, you go down 14-0, like, if you hang around, it's the second quarter, it's like 10-7, you get this like, oh, we can do this, like thing. And that breaking point probably gets moved back a little bit. So you can easily do this, second quarter first quarter's impressive, but second quarter, like that, you can do this. You go out there, you don't let Achan get going, right? They get him going, he starts running the ball well. They're going to get some life.
Yeah. And Ewers lived in kind of an RPO world at
Mm-hmm.
Texas, and they use plenty of those down in Miami. But when you're ahead 14-0, which this was the story against the Jets, you get a big lead, put the game on Brady Cook's shoulders, he's going to crumble. And with
Yeah,
him, the
you
rest of the
can't
Jets.
do it.
Yeah. And when you put that game on Quinn Ewers, it's not just you ask the bad quarterback or the young quarterback to carry a team. You strip him of that ability to run some RPO stuff, save for some early 1st and 10s, because you don't even care if they're going to run the ball at that point. And Achan's really good, but you also limit his threat. He's only going to be a receiver at that point, and that allows you to play some lighter personnel. He can be covered by Marcus Jones as opposed to Robert Spillane, who is a great linebacker, but surely had at least one nightmare, half of a nightmare that week 2 game when he had more missed tackles than real ones, because that's how good Achan is. And I think this matchup, it's less about Ewers, as we know, than it is Achan. So like I don't know what their tactic will be besides lighter personnel, but that's what it's going to be. You contain him. They just don't have any other outs.
I've always thought Miami with Mike McDaniel, their offense was so good when they were running the football, because especially, and I know Hill's not playing, but like, with Waddle and different things, is Waddle even playing? Is he hurt or is he in?
I have to double check on that.
But like with those guys, right? They're not like the DK Metcalf, like running, jump balls or whatever. These were guys, they were hitting like these little quick seams, little quick, they were running the ball, and then they give them the pass at 12. They throw these quick play actions. Like, it's pretty impressive how they come up with them. And those guys take a 12-yard pass and turn it into 45, or 80 yards, because they're so fast and explosive. And sure, they definitely had the plays where you run Tyreek Hill past everybody, but I felt like watching a lot of those plays, you could get them into like 2nd and 12, which you think is a very advantageous spot. They hit one of these quick little seam routes, and it's like,
it's gone.
It looks like taking kids from, candy from a baby. So, that's where I think that offense with Mike McDaniel is so good. And I think, Tua was very good at those. Like, whatever you want to say, like, he just had a great feel of those plays. Like, I don't know how, you said he, obviously he did play in these RPOs in Texas, but like, I don't know how great of a feel he has of these in the NFL and the windows. But, like you said, and, I just think Achan is the driving force here. And if you can get up and limit him, you don't have the Tyreek Hill out there making big plays. So that's, to me, a very advantageous spot for this football team.
Yeah, no news on Waddle. I think we'll probably hear after you and I finish here in a second, because he had a rib injury against the Bucks and he came back, but wasn't really impactful. They won anyway. It's Achan's their leading receiver by total catches, and obviously their leading rusher. So when you and I go, it really comes down to one guy. It's the truth. And so
that's the thing. I when I was looking it up this week, and I saw, I was trying to go see their receivers, and I was like, holy crap, this dude's leading in the like, that's an obvious threat. And I do think at a team like this, right, like playing Miami, they have a good special teams unit. That's an area that gives a team life. If they can go out there and make some type of splash play on special teams, block, punt, and you saw it with New York last week. What did they do to try to breathe some life in the air? Fake punt.
Yeah.
And then do it 7 plays later or whatever it was again. But, you're trying, and look, I think some of these coaches, like, you're interviewing for jobs too if you think they're getting fired, whether that's for the incoming staff or the job somewhere else, and well,
apparently McDaniel's going to be up for the Browns job, which is never a good sign for the current coach of the Browns, Kevin Stefanski, when there are rumors about someone taking your job, but you haven't left yet. And meanwhile, McDaniel has not left Miami. But that's
stuff. I mean, that's like just the wild
throw out
coaching world.
Yeah,
but
it does come down to Achan. Yeah, is there?
Yeah, and I think, like, they go out there, return a punt for a touchdown. I think, didn't they? Did they return a punt for the touchdown in the first game, and then we had the kickoff return, right?
Yes,
Back
that's
to
exactly
back.
right.
So,
Yep.
that obviously negated that, but that's something that can breathe life into a team. So, like, they're a good special teams unit. I like our special teams unit. I think Coach Springer does a great job. We got some good guys on that side of the ball, but that's another area that I would be concerned. Not me personally, I didn't play special teams, but doing this role where I'm like, that's something that will, a team that's on life support can breathe life into them.
Yeah, no, totally fair. I think the Patriots give up an early touchdown here because there's stuff schematically where they can probably play off of H-An's gravity, where it's like, hey, look over here, and then they hit a Malik Washington or if Waddle plays over there.
Yeah,
But eventually that runs out when
it does.
you can't run decoys for the guy who's going to power your whole offense the entire time. I think the Patriots win running away. I think this is something like 34-17, and it
Yeah,
might
I
be
mean, this is
uncomfortable early,
this
but
is
that's
this is a
what it
better
is.
team than the Jets,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
obviously they could have. You can say what you want about the Bucks and the state of that team right now, but they could have lost that game. But like they always showed enough fight, enough good to win that game. So you got to take that into effect. I think
Mhm.
and take that for what it's worth. You know, like I said, it might have been one of those things. They're hanging around the Bucks and they're sitting there like, hey, we got a shot. Like, let's do this. Versus
And at
you know,
home too. That helps.
and at home,
Yeah.
it's gonna be what 20s here Sunday. That ain't
Perfect
fun.
weather for playing the Dolphins. Couldn't be any better.
It ain't fun. Trust me.
Yeah, yeah. All
So
right, David. Where can we find you? Quit Snap Pod. Anything else?
quick tap pod. I do some tweeting. Uh, I think that's Let me see what my Twitter. I don't even know.
It's like
Uh,
DeAndrew61
I think
off
it's
the top of my head.
61. Yeah, my college number. It got hacked a few years ago. Then I
Like,
got it back. Yes, DeAndrew61. I'll do some tweeting. I'm on Instagram, bear6060 underscore 6060. I think I'm pretty funny. I posted a funny thing about my wife being pregnant last night. That got me a lot of joy. She
yeah.
found it funny. My wife's got a good sense of you got to have a good sense of humor living with me for 10 years. So, yeah, check it out. I'll be tweet.
Cool.
I do a lot of tweeting during the games. Try to keep it light.
Yes. Yes, you do. Good luck in the Sugar Bowl. I think you're probably not
Um,
sweating that at all. Near's day.
yeah, I'm not. They don't do it. To me, like I used to like when the Sugar Bowl and Fiesta Bowl mattered, and more
Separate
of
from the
it.
playoff. Yeah.
Yeah, or separate from the BCS championship, national championship. Like you play in the Fiesta Bowl and win, or the Rose Bowl, and let's say the Sugar Bowl was the national championship that year. So like you go to the Rose Bowl, like that still meant something to now. To me, it feels like it doesn't mean anything. Like the Sugar Bowl doesn't. It's just a playoff game. And I don't love the spacing. I know there's more that goes into it than I understand with sponsorships and TV rights and the bowl money and all that kind of good business stuff. But it's just too like I lose interest in it. It's been Georgia hasn't played in 2.5 weeks or something like that.
Do you bark at home, by the way, watching games?
I'll do a little barking.
A little barking? Yeah.
I
Get the dogs riled up?
my dogs bark enough for me. They
Yeah.
bark at anything, except when they need to actually bark. Like they'll bark at like a
Intruders.
leaf. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
bark at a leaf blowing across the yard, and then someone knocks on the door and they're just asleep. Great, you guys are useless.
Yeah. Well, good luck to your dogs, your
Thank you,
bulldog.
man.
And it's been great catching up, great chatting with you. It's gonna be a fun playoff run. Fingers crossed it goes a little bit longer than the last one that you had. But they're back and they're playing in the playoffs, and that's a great start to 2026. And I look forward to when we do this again. All right.
Hey, you know who else I need to have a bone to pick with?
Oh yeah.
Mr. Kraft.
Oh.
Did you see the Ole Miss Rebels flew on our plane?
Oh no. The Patriots
I
plane.
got yeah, I
The
got to
one with
talk to Mr.
ashtrays and Wi-Fi. You're sure that was a favor and not
There's no ashtrays on the plane.
Yeah, that
You know,
was meaty, by the way. That was the NFLPA doing yourselves dirty or doing them dirty.
I
But
I gotta call Mr. Kraft. Say, you got a favorite in this game? You want to talk about this? No, I'm
yeah,
kidding. But maybe Joe Judge made a phone call. That's my guess.
probably did. Oh well, when you make a phone call, tell everyone we said hi from the Pats Interference Podcast. All right.
I will.
See you, bud.
Bye.
Happy New Year's Eve here with Craig Woodson and another 4-minute drill, the final 4-minute drill of 2025. And I think this is going to be a good one. I was just trying to explain this is kind of soft. It's safe. We got some softballs, but you had a full season to kind of get seasoned with the media. Do you feel good?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Starting the clock right now. So, same question we ask everybody. You're in an Uber. Do you have an alias or do you give your real name?
Josh.
Josh. Okay, why Josh?
I don't know. It just sounds like it could work with me, so I just say Josh.
You do look like a Josh. Pop doesn't look like a Leonard, which is his name. Oh, wow. Craig could look like a Josh. Do you have a favorite media deflection yet? You know, something you don't want to answer, but you're going to be respectful. Everyone's got one, focused on this, focused on that. Do you have a favorite deflection?
A deflection? For me, I would just say we're just focusing on us and trying to chase wins. That's it.
Cool. This is a good week for those, so that's why we ask. The thing they don't tell you about coming into the NFL that they should tell you as a rookie is what?
You spend too much money your first year. Like, you spending money on stuff you didn't even know you had to spend money on.
What's that? Stuff like what?
Man, food for the guys on days that you don't need to be getting them food. Just gifts and setting up the room for, holidays. Like, it's just too much.
All right. We heard about Coach Vrabel's pop quizzes. You're a smart guy. That's why you're a rookie. You're playing so much. What's something that you've had to answer and you got right?
I had to answer and got right. Pretty much it's just all about, like, just kind of scheme stuff, which I can't speak on, but it's mostly just scheme stuff that I always get right. I always know my playbook.
Any hesitation, any week you're like, oh.
No, I know what I'm doing.
Cool. What was your rookie skit and how'd it go?
So I was in charge of, like, doing a little breakdance skit, and it went terrible.
How was that?
It went terrible because the moves didn't come out the way that it was supposed to. People wasn't laughing like that, and just overall, and people weren't feeling it. So yeah, definitely a disappointment.
So what'd you hear after it was disappointing? What did guys actually say and do?
They just told us that we should have just made fun of some of the coaches, and I agree with them. I should have.
All right. You got a pet peeve?
Just people who aren't considerate. That's one of mine.
I like that one. There's a Netflix doc made years from now. It's about you, but it's not about football. What is the Netflix documentary going to be about?
About how I'm the funniest guy in my friend group. That's what it's about.
Your friend group? How many people are watching this doc? Is it just the group chat?
Just the group chat. It's just the group chat. That's it. But they don't know what's up.
There are so many specials and docs on Netflix. You can have your custom group chat. Just talk about you. Who's the funniest teammate?
Ooh, it got to be Barmore. Barmore is the funniest guy ever. Just like him talking, I'd be crying.
How does Craig Woodson talk trash?
How do I talk trash? I don't.
Nothing. Not at all?
Nah, I just do my stuff, man, and get to it.
What happens when someone talks trash to you?
I just laugh at them.
All right, that's easy. Coming up on 1 minute left. Any member of the rookie class you wouldn't mind dating your sister?
Who I wouldn't mind? Maybe Julian Ashby, maybe. And that's a maybe. Just because he a good dude. But, yeah, it's not a lot of good dudes out here.
All right, celebrity crush?
I ain't got a celebrity crush. My crush is my fiance, Jasmine.
See, this is how you know Craig Woodson's among the smartest guys on the team. That's the exact right answer, and also the answer I would give. Teammate FaceTimes you late at night. You see who it is, and you are absolutely not picking up under any circumstances. Who's that teammate?
Del Pettis. Just because he's my locker neighbor, and we kind of just mess around so much, so I'm not answering his.
Okay, we start with your favorite media deflection. You ready to use it?
Yeah.
Okay. What if I told you, Craig Woodson, 4th-round rookie in the NFL, are older than Bill Belichick's girlfriend?
You know, we just speak for ourselves and just worry about chasing wins. That's it.
I think the smile says it louder than those words. All right, last question. Who should we interview next and why?
You should interview Kobe Minor because he's an interesting guy and, you know, he would love to be on the camera.
All right, remember that rookie class. He doesn't want Kobe to date his sister, but he wants him to come on the pod. Craig Woodson, thanks for closing out 2025.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.